All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about one of the biggest, scariest risks any company faces. What happens when a truly great leader just leaves? Today, we're going to see how data analytics is turning succession planning from this high stakes guessing game into, well, something much closer to a science. So let's paint a picture. Just imagine for a second. Your absolute rock star leader, you know the one, drives all the innovation, keeps morale through the roof. They walk into your office and drop the news. They're out. What happens next? Is it just sheer panic? A frantic scramble to find anyone to fill that seat? Or is there a plan in place? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at what we call the leadership void. Then we'll see how data can help. We'll open up the analytics toolkit to see the actual tools, check out a real-world story of a company that did this, and then wrap it all up by talking about how you can start predicting your own future. All right, first up, the leadership void. And believe me, the cost of that empty chair is very, very real. You know, it's so much more than just an inconvenience. When a key leader walks out the door unexpectedly, it creates this vacuum. Critical projects, they can just grind to a halt. Your teams suddenly feel like they're totally rudderless, and all that incredible momentum you've built up, poof, gone in an instant. That's the kind of chaos you get when you're just being reactive. So, the big question is, how do you get out of that cycle? How do you move from that reactive panic to a really proactive strategy? Well, the answer, as it so often is these days, is in the data. And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, succession planning analytics. So what is that exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's all about using actual, hard data, not just gut feelings or office politics, to identify and develop your next generation of leaders from right inside your own walls. It's about figuring out who really has potential, what specific skills they need to work on, and, crucially, how ready they are to step up when that call comes. Okay, so what does this actually look like in practice? I mean, how do companies really do this? Let's pop the hood and open up the analytics toolkit to see the instruments they're using to build their future leaders. First up, we've got something called talent pipeline visualization. The best way to think about this? It's like an X-ray of your company's leadership DNA. It's a visual map that shows you, clear as day, who you have, what roles they might be able to fill down the line, and, this is the most important part, where your biggest gaps are. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. It's a clear action plan. So, step one, you figure out your most critical roles, the ones that, if they were empty, would be a total disaster. Step two, you start mapping your internal talent against those roles. And right away, bam, step three shows you exactly where your readiness gaps are. See, it's not a mystery anymore, it's a diagnosis. And once you have that, you can create these super focused development plans to get the right people ready for what's next. Okay, so having that map is awesome. It's super powerful. But it immediately brings up the next big question, right? Just because someone has a ton of potential, how on earth do you know if they're ready to step up right now versus, say, needing another year or two? And that leads us right to our next tool, readiness scoring. So instead of just relying on vague feelings, you actually quantify potential. I mean, take a look at this. You can see J. Doe is scored a 5. That means they're ready to go today. But A. Smith over here is a 3, and you can see they need to build up their financial acumen. All of a sudden, the whole conversation shifts. It becomes objective, it's driven by data, and it's focused on real, specific actions. But of course, it's not just about who's ready to move up. It's also about who might be ready to move out. And that is where flight risk modeling becomes absolutely critical. By looking at data points, things like engagement scores, how long someone's been in their role, their pay compared to the market, you can start to identify those high-potential folks who are a major risk of leaving. This gives you a chance to step in and do something about it before it's too late. So when you put all of these tools together, you start to get this incredible high-level dashboard, kind of like what you see here. This gives the leadership team a true bird's-eye view of the company's overall bench strength. Just look, in this example, they know for a fact that 15% of their pipeline is ready to go today. And they can also see a much larger group is on the right track for the future. Now that is real strategic insight. Okay, this all sounds pretty powerful in theory, right? But the real question is, does this stuff actually work out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at a story about a massive conglomerate that put these exact tools to the test when they were facing a pretty serious crisis. So here was the challenge they were up against.
They were staring down a massive wave of retirements from their most senior, most experienced leaders. And we're not talking about just one or two people leaving. This was a systemic risk that was threatening the stability of the entire global company.
So what did they do? Well, they deployed the whole shebang, the entire analytics toolkit we've just been talking about. They weren't just scrambling for one replacement. Nope, they visualized their entire company-wide pipeline to see all the possible moves. They used readiness scoring so they wouldn't promote people before they were actually ready. And they used flight risk modeling to protect the key talent they absolutely could not afford to lose in the middle of all this change. And now for the million-dollar question. Did it actually work? Well, the data speaks for itself. It is pretty compelling. Within just 18 months, they saw a 35% increase in internal promotions into leadership roles. Now, stop and think about what that really means. They weren't just backfilling empty chairs. They were building a truly sustainable leadership engine from the inside out, promoting people who already knew and lived their culture. That is a massive, massive win. Okay, so this brings us to our final section. We've seen the problem, we've looked at the tools, and we've seen the proof that it works. Now, let's bring it home and talk about why this really matters to you. So, if you're going to remember anything from this, let's boil it down to 4 key takeaways. Number 1, you've got to be proactive, not reactive. It's a total game changer. Number 2, data-driven decisions will beat gut feelings pretty much every single time. 3, just having visibility into your talent pipeline, that itself is a huge strategic advantage. And finally, number 4, developing your internal talent isn't just a nice thing to do. It's how you build a stronger, more resilient culture. And that really leaves us with one last question for you to think about. When a key role opens up in your company, is the goal just to backfill the past, to find someone to do the exact same job, or do you see it as an opportunity to build your future? Because the difference between those two mindsets, well, that changes everything.